Good morning, Deed Grabbers. It's Thursday, time for Goat Talk. Today's Q&A. Bring your questions about subject to and creative finance, and we'll get those answered for you. We're going to talk about what's going on out there in real estate today. So we'll be back in 45 seconds. Good morning, Deed Grabbers. Welcome to Goat Talk for, what is it, August 18th today. If you're watching us on YouTube or on Facebook, we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to our channel. We release several videos every week, training you on various aspects of subject to and creative finance. And we'd love to have you join us. Hey, tell us what your name is, where you're at, what kind of investing that you like in the comments. And if you have any questions on creative finance or subject to, we'd love to have those today. So you guys out there in the marketplace, or tell us, are you noticing any difference in the responses that you're getting from sellers? I know we, do outreach every week, and the responses are much different now than they were just a couple of months ago. Sellers seem much more open to talking to you about creative stuff. And not quite as fixed on their pricing as they were before, much more flexible. We're seeing people that we had a conversation actually just this past week with a guy. He's asking $125 for his property. It needs a little bit of work. And when we, just asked the first question, what is that the best you could do? What would you take for it? And he said, well, we take 85. So he came off a third of the price right away. So, that's something that we're talking to him about right now. But I mean, just an indication of some of the changes that are happening. Well, hey, Crypto, good to see you. Let's see your question. What's your experience on pre-foreclosure sub 2? Well, Crypto, I'll tell you, until COVID, pre-foreclosures were actually 2/3 of our business. So, the shutdown during that, of course, cut that off. But pre-foreclosures are some of the absolute best deals that you're going to find out there. Those are people under pressure. They've got timelines, and sure, there are a bunch of them, that'll say, well, we've got it taken care of, or we want to keep our house. But the fact is, if they don't have it taken care of and you follow up with them, then a lot of times you'll make a deal there. But yeah, pre-foreclosures are absolutely good sub twos. Now, in a lot of cases, you'll need to make up back payments. You'll need cash for that. But depending on what your exit is, if your exit seller financing, it's very short term that you'll need that money. You'll recoup that money from your buyer's down payment, and you can still get into those deals with nothing down. So let's see. Tom's in Dayton, Ohio. Just purchased your $7 program. Just sold a business, ready to jump back into creative real estate. Well, Tom, welcome to the group. Glad to have you. And anything we can do to help. You got any questions? Let us have those this morning. We'll be glad to help you. So if you guys are paying attention to what's going on out there, if you remember, last year, Zillow said they were out of the house buying business. But, just yesterday, there was an article that said that they're going to partner with Open Door. They're going to get back into the business. Now, why do you think that might be? Maybe because sellers are more flexible now. They'll get a better deal on houses. You guys give us your opinion on that. I shared I watched something yesterday that I actually learned something about real estate I wasn't familiar with. How many of you guys have heard of the Augusta rule? Are you familiar with that or know what that is? So I watched a video yesterday on the Augusta rule and did some research on it. And under the Augusta rule, and actually it was formed to protect residents in Augusta who would rent out their houses for the 2 weeks of the Masters. And what you can do if it's your principal residence or you occupy the place at least 10% of the time, you can actually rent your house out for 14 days a year and not pay any tax on the income. So what I learned was that this is an excellent strategy for renting your corporation the house every month for a day or so for corporate meetings. And you think about that for a minute, the average rent rate, whatever the norm is, like here, this Airbnb we're in right now, its normal rental rate is $300 a night. And of course, during peak times or special events, it's higher than that. So obviously, you would choose those days to rent your house out. But several $1,000s a year, you can actually have a write-off for your corporation and income for you personally that you don't have to pay any tax on. So think about that just a little bit. Do some numbers on that, and I think you'll find that might be something that you want to start considering. Crypto, would you consider taking on a reverse mortgage? The owner owes $275. The value of the property is $550. Well, Crypto, I'll tell you, we've covered this several times, and a reverse mortgage is actually the only type of property that I would not consider sub 2. Now, the only exception to that is going to be in, let's just say this case here that you're talking about. Your owner owes $275. The value of the property is $550. If you're going to get this with considerable equity and your plan is a very short-term thing, 6 months to a year, certainly no more than a year, and you're going to flip this thing, sure, do it. Because by the time the lender discovers that a transfer has taken place, and then a little bit of negotiating, and then they decide to call the loan due, you'll probably get that thing sold. So in that case, yes, I would consider it. As far as just a regular sub 2, where you're going to hold that thing to live in or for a rental or for seller financing, no. Because the difference with a reverse mortgage is they actually send inspectors out once or twice a year to knock on the door and interview the occupant and make absolutely certain that the occupant is the person on the mortgage. So, and then they're pretty strict on that. So if they determine that they've sold the house or they're renting it out or they've moved out, then they're going to call that loan due. So you don't want that to happen. But in a case where there's equity, maybe you plan to buy it, renovate it, flip it. Yeah, I would do that. Certainly would. Let's see. Rebecca said, "Hey, William, Rebecca here. Hey, Rebecca, good to see you. Sent you an email about a sub 2 opportunity about 45 minutes ago. Glad to be listening. Hey, we're glad to have you. Glad to have you here today. Hey, Matt, good to see you. Allie, good to see you. Oh, look who's here. Gosh. Well, hey, Jody, how are you?
I'm good. I'm just butting in now.
Okay. Well, good to see you. So we can get to
I was
talking about
taking care of some stuff, and now I'm like, well, I might as well just jump in.
I'm telling you.
Like it or not.
Allie, man, we've been busy. We've been talking to Allie. We've started. She's got a CRM that she's rolled out, a platform, and we're just getting up to speed on that thing. That's kept us really busy for the last couple of weeks. But you guys need to reach out to Allie. Allie, share your contact information on here, so anybody that's interested can check you out there. Matt said, I heard you came out with a video course. Where do I find it? Do you plan on releasing more video courses? Matt?
Heck yeah, we do.
Yeah. I'll let Jody tell you about Sub 2 University.
Well, I'm not sure which one you're talking about, Matt. The video course. We have, I don't know, probably 5 of them at least. Does that seem right? Because some of them aren't courses, some of them are tools. But anyway, if you go to sub2university.com, we have lots of stuff, and we're going to keep adding to it. Every little period of time, we'll add some more stuff. So we'll keep adding and adding.
Yeah,
it's going to be great.
So yeah, we've put out a couple of things. A couple of new things that we've done have actually been things that were requested a lot. Like, okay, the forms, the contract to close. The forms course is actually the forms that we use and an explainer video for each one, walking you through step by step how to use them. So we had a lot of people ask for that. And
every form you need, I think I can't imagine there's another one unless it's state specific or something. every form you need and the explanation along with it. I mean, what more do you need?
Yeah.
It's great.
So if being afraid of filling out forms has been your problem, this will take care of that for you. So yeah, go check that out. Sub2 University. Okay. So, well, gosh, let's see what else we got here. Zach says, do you use a performance deed if the owner is worried about you not making the payments? You know, Zach, that is a possibility. You can do that. You can record a performance mortgage against the property to give them an instrument to foreclose on if you don't pay. I don't like that. And the primary reasons are these. Things happen in a seller's life. And I assume that when I take a property subject to, I may be in that thing for years. You know, we just don't know. And we don't like to make promises to sellers. Yes, it'll be paid off in 2 years or 5 years or anything like that. So let's look at it this way. If we buy a house from someone, a couple, they're getting a divorce, they're moving to wherever, once that property's in our name, we've taken over the payments, we have it for a year or two. If we record a performance mortgage, let's say 5 years down the road, the buyer that we have installed says, hey, we just got approved for our financing. We're going to cash you out in the next 30 days. Okay. Title company is doing the title work. There's an underlying lien. We have to get a satisfaction from that mortgage company. But there's also this performance mortgage. We got to track down Jimmy Joe and Bobby Sue to get them to sign off on this thing, so we can give clear title. What if we can't find them? What if something's happened? What if they moved out of the country? You know, a million things could possibly happen. And for that reason, we don't like it. Generally, we created a document, and it really is just a document that we both sign, and we call it a recourse document for our sellers. It explains step by step what they need to do if we don't pay, and the process, and we have them sign that. So can you do a security deed, a performance mortgage, or something against the property to make the seller feel better? Sure, you can. But we don't like it for those reasons. We don't want to have any problem giving our buyer free and clear title in a time frame. We don't want any delays to hinder that. So for that reason, we don't like it.
We don't like delays.
We don't like delays. That's right. Okay. Good morning. Good to see you. Let's see, somebody, Facebook user, not sure who this is. Good morning from blazing hot California. You know, it's been pretty nice here the last few days in Florida. It's
still hot
right now.
It's still hot.
It's 79 though. It's 11:15 and it's 79 degrees.
It's still humid.
It's pretty nice.
Look at my hair. It's frizzy. It's still humid.
Let's see. When it comes to lease options, do you let the buyers find the loan company to qualify them, or do you provide one? Let me tell you, we don't do lease options, Vincent, and friends don't let friends do lease options. Okay. I did lease options for years and years and years, sold that way. But what I found was 80% of those people never buy the house. And if I sell you a house, I want you to buy it. I want to take your down payment, give you the keys, and I want you to pay me every month until that day when you go, guess what? We got our financing approved. We're going to pay you this at the end of this month. That's all. I don't want the house back. I don't want to have to paint it. I don't want to have to fix, put new carpet in, do any of that stuff. But what we do with our buyers is we actually qualify them with a mortgage broker, and then we let the mortgage broker follow up with them periodically. So we stay in control of who's going to handle things, because chances are if they went to that broker to get in the house from us to begin with, and he follows up with them periodically, they're going to deal with who they already know when it comes time to refinance. So for that reason, we like to stay in control of it and say who they have to deal with. Same thing with a title company. You want to use your title company, people that know you, people that understand what you're doing. If you let your seller control that sort of thing, it can be problematic. So always stay in control, right, Jay?
Always stay in control.
That's right.
No delays. Control. We like control, and we don't like delays.
Yeah. Well, it's your business. So the people, your team, you need to make sure your team handles everything. chances of getting things done are much more the way you
I
want.
know I've heard of people who are like, well, I thought the title company was taking care of that part, and I was like, you can't assume anybody's going to take care of anything. You have to take care of it.
Right, for sure. Well, hey, Kelly, good to see you in here. Hope you're having a good day. Crypto, what is the most common problem you run into with pre-foreclosure sub 2? Okay, if I pull a list today in Podunk, wherever, of 100 pre-foreclosures, the biggest problem you're going to run into in general is just going to be people that want to keep their house. They're not open to talking to you because of that. As far as a problem that you'll run into, how much do you have to pay in back payments? Okay, is that going to kill the deal? What's your exit strategy? If your exit strategy is seller finance and it's $20,000 to cure, and you can get 20,000 down from your buyer, you're probably pretty good. The biggest problem is most people in foreclosure still live in their house and they don't want to give their house up. So that's going to make the deal not doable. A lot of them will lose their house at the auction anyway, but they still live there and they don't want to move out. So that's the biggest thing that I've run into with pre-foreclosures. You have any other thoughts on that, Jody?
No, I just think the question is kind of open. So like it could be, at any point in the process. So I wasn't sure what he was asking, but
Yeah. Okay.
crypto,
Well,
what do you think the most common problem is?
yeah. I mean, what are you running into that's
Yeah.
causing issues for you? And I mean, if you're running into things, we'll try to help you with whatever's going on with that. Let's see, Matt, how do you feel about buying a sub 2 at the moment with the market shifting? Well, Matt, we've talked about this stuff before. Our model as it works, it's, wholesaling. Okay. You'll see some things, Burr, for example. Okay. Burr's a big deal. A lot of people do that. When the interest rates go up, that can be a problem because you have to refinance. It takes away a lot of your cash flow. Wholesaling, in a down market, wholesalers, you'll see a lot of wholesalers fall away because people are underwater. It's hard to get that deal unless they make a shift into short sale or something like that. It's going to be tough. What we do will work regardless. Here's how. It depends on your exit strategy. I had this conversation the other day with someone about how do you know when a deal is more suited for a short sale as opposed to a sub 2. And I said, well, it depends on what you're going to do with it. Okay. If a seller calls you today from your marketing and they have a house that's worth 300,000 and they don't owe anything on it. I mean, excuse me, they owe the full price on it. Can you buy it and rent it and make money? Sure. Can you buy it and sell it with seller financing and make money? Sure. If the payment works. So what happens 6 months from now if the market completely tanks and you bought that house for 300 and now it's worth 200? Well, if you have a seller finance buyer in it, they have a decision to make. Are they okay with the house being underwater? If it's their home, 80% of people during the last market crash kept their house. They could afford the payment. It was their home. They just waited it out until the market comes back, because it always does. What if they hand you the keys and walk away and go, hey, man, I owe you more than this house is worth. I don't want it anymore. And a lot of people did that during the last crash. They called it a strategic foreclosure. They said, you know what? I owe way more than this house is worth. I don't really care about it. I'm out. So what do you do when somebody hands you the keys back? You owe 300. The house is worth 200. Can you sell it with seller financing now? No. Can you rent it out? Sure you can. If the payments made sense before with a rental, they probably still will now, because rental rates probably aren't going to fall. In fact, they may actually still continue to go up. So plan B may be a rental. So for those reasons, we don't worry too much about a market shift in what we do. The important thing is, when you buy the house right now, make sure it would make sense as a rental if your plan is to sell or finance them. Now, if your plan is to use them as a rental anyway, it doesn't make any difference, because the value of the house isn't going to matter. You could pay $1 million for that $200,000 house, And as long as the payments made sense for a rental every month, who cares? You're still going to cash flow. So I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense to you,
And
Joe?
yeah, it does. But on the other side of that, the market shift is like a plus because there's like so many more deals out there right now.
Right.
So,
Because there'll be a lot of people getting out of real estate. You'll see a lot of real estate agents stop being agents. You'll see a lot of investors get out because they can't flip. They can't pay full price for a house and flip it 2 months later and make $20,000 like they can today.
and a lot of people don't know how to adjust to a market shift.
Right. Yep, for sure. Okay. Vincent, do you recommend wraps? What do you think?
Why not?
What kind of wrap? I like wraps. They're sometimes on a low carb diet. Wraps are good, aren't they? Wraps, I'll tell you, buy on a wrap if you can't get the deed. I don't like selling on a wrap because when you sell on a wrap, you give up legal title, and we don't like that. We like to keep legal title and give them equitable title. So we prefer to sell on a contract for deed. And there are some states that's problematic. Texas, it can be an issue. And it seems like, but Texas is the main one, I think. They don't like contract for deed. So you just about have to sell on a wrap in Texas. But buying on a wrap is okay. Selling that way, I don't like it. A lot of people do it, and it's just up to you. Again, you've already heard this morning, we like to keep control of things, and you give up some control with a wrap. And there's some other advantages that you lose.
What's the control that you give up when you sell on a wrap?
Well, okay, you're giving someone else legal title, and in some states, it's easy to get someone out if they fail to perform on a contract for deed. In some states, it's little more than an eviction. I think in some states it can be called an ejectment, but it's still easier and faster than a foreclosure. Another big thing that you give up is the ability to refinance. Let's say that I buy a house worth $300. The seller is super motivated, walks away, they owe $250. Well, I'm buying that house with a little bit of equity. And let's say that I sell it on a contract for deed. And a couple of years from now, I need cash. I need cash in a big way. Right now, I only owe $225 on that house, maybe. And it's worth $300 plus. Well, I've got some equity I can extract from that. All I have to do is go refinance it. And it doesn't affect my contract for deed buyer at all. They'll never know it happened. But if I sell on a wrap and I've given someone else legal title, I can't refinance that underlying loan because the title to the house is in somebody else's name.
So that's part two of keeping title.
That's right.
That you can't refi. But so basically the control that you don't have is that you don't have the deed.
Right. You aren't the legal owner of the house. So your options are limited. Yeah. So for those two primary reasons, we don't like that. Let's see. Matt, you go after more vacant homes. Being remote takes away your ability to do one of my favorite things, which is driving for dollars. I love driving for dollars. And I'll tell you even more than that, I love driving for dollars on pre-foreclosures because the real gold in a pre-foreclosure list are the houses people have already moved out of. Because if that thing's going to auction and they've already moved out of it, they have emotionally disconnected from that house. They don't want to keep it anymore. They've decided to move on with their life. So your job at that point is to track them down and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I noticed your house over at 123 Oak Street. It's vacant. Were you wanting to sell? You just ask some kind of leading question to get them to tell you things. I noticed your house over here. It's vacant. Were you wanting to sell it? What were you wanting to do? And most of the time they'll say, oh, the bank already owns it. It's going to auction, whatever. And you go, oh, okay. Well, listen, I'm interested in it. If I would pay you, you don't want it. You moved. Oh yeah, the bank's going to get it. Okay. Well, if I paid you $500, would you be willing to do some paperwork with me, I'd like to try to buy it. And if you can find these people, they don't care. They'll give you the house most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really good thing. Yeah, we love vacant houses. We don't pull a list of vacants because that thing is so overworked.
Yeah.
You go into PropStream, whew, that is a tough crowd. Landlords and
it's kind of better to find them before they actually hit any kind of list, which is a bit of luck, but
right, for sure. Okay, Matt, bite the bullet and join Sub 2 Max. Hey, man, I appreciate that. I don't know. Is that Phil? Okay.
Yeah, that's Phil.
Yeah, we appreciate you, Phil. Phil's one of our Max students. We're getting ready for our next mastermind, so we're going to have everybody down here in Apollo Beach.
Man, it's like in a little over a month.
Yeah.
I think, right? Yeah.
Have a barbecue and talk about real estate for 3 days. We're going to have these guys in a hotel for 3 days talking about real estate. Crypto, would you recommend using a HELOC to pay off your original mortgage, or would you rather use the HELOC to buy another property? The HELOC's worth $300. Well, the problem with a HELOC is you don't know where that thing's going to go. I mean, are you going to pay it off with your HELOC and then just leave it in place and use your cash flow off the property to pay it down? Because, with rates climbing, that HELOC is going to continue to go up and up and up. And the bad thing about a HELOC too is it's not, in addition to not being fixed rate, they can call that, they can at any time go, you know what, we're going to cut this thing off. It's not fixed for a long term or in place for a long term. Typically they're renewable every year, and the bank can decide they just don't want you to, it's like a credit card basically. You can get a notice in the mail from a credit card company that says, hey, we're going to cancel your card, or generally they already have, just for whatever reason.
Like, surprise.
Yeah. Guess what? This card doesn't work anymore. Don't use it. So no, whenever possible, if you've got fixed rate long-term in place, leave it. It's safe. It's not going anywhere. And unless it's a really high rate, which today is anything over 5%, I wouldn't even consider that. I would use that HELOC for my business expenses, for down payments that you can recoup from your buyers, just to use money when you need it. If you do rehabs, buy a property, rehab it, sell it, or replenish that money. I don't
understand the question, but I don't really see a benefit of doing that in any situation. Am I missing something?
Yeah. Unless there's something else we don't know. I can't imagine that being a good idea. So,
right.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm misunderstanding the question, but.
Right. Rebecca,
I started the questions just so you know if you're looking for.
Oh, okay.
Stars.
So you're all right. Oh, okay. I'm looking for stars. My producer here, man, she's trying to take care of me. Is there a best practice working with a wholesaler for acquisition as it relates to a fee with a JV approach to acquire? Please give some examples of equitable split if one is providing money. As far as wholesalers, we'll pay a fee to a wholesaler and have contracted to do that several times. It's a fee that you negotiate with that wholesaler, and if the deal closes, and we pay our wholesaler right on the HUD. I mean, when we write the contract up, it's one of the line items in the contract. Joe Smith consulting fee, $5,000, whatever it may be. So we show that on the contract, and then again, it's shown that way on the HUD. As far as JV, again, Rebecca, all that is negotiable. If someone's bringing the money to the deal and you're finding the deals, you guys just have to decide what works for you. We don't JV much. We only JV with Sub 2 Max students, and that's usually a 40-60 split with the student taking the 60. But again, that's just, that just depends. I generally try to ask people what they want. A lot of times what they want will be less than what you would offer. Not sure how to answer that really. That's just up to you. Newbies are a lot of times more open to giving up more for the experience of learning from someone that has a lot more knowledge. And as we've been doing, Jody and I.
They should actually.
Yeah. Jody and I have been doing this for about 40 years between the two of us. So
Yeah.
um, we don't like to give up too much in those things. So I don't know. It's probably a little bit different for us. Do you reach out to properties on the MLS? And if so, how do you deal with realtors? For years, I have marketed to what I call soon to expire listings. I started doing that probably, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago. And, you know, expired listings were the big deal. Go after the expired listings. But what I found in my experience of doing that was once someone had listed a property for 6 months and it expired, they generally had an idea. They were either going to list it with someone else, or they were going to rent it out, or they were just going to not sell it. So I thought, well, I'm looking for the low hanging fruit always. So if most people list because they don't know what else to do. They just think that's just what we do, right? We want to sell a house, we find an agent and we list it. What if somebody's in trouble and that's why they're selling their house, but they still called an agent, listed their property? It's been, the agent makes all the promises. Oh, we'll have this thing sold quickly. And then 30 days go by, 60 days go by, 90 days go by, no sale. The agent, they go to the agent and go, why hasn't my house sold? And what's the first thing the agent says, Jody?
I don't know where I'm not, no, I don't know where you're going with that.
So
I was kind of thinking ahead of what I was going to say.
If you listed my house and you came in just like the typical agent does and said, hey, yeah, we'll have this house sold really quick. Let's list it. And 90 days go by and it hasn't sold. And I call you up and I'm fussing at you and I'm going, hey, Jody, you said my house would sell quickly and it hasn't sold. What can we do to get this thing sold? What's the first thing you're going to say to me?
Just wait.
No. Well, it's probably let's lower the price. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Let's drop the price a little bit, and then it'll probably sell. So I started looking for people who had properties listed more than 90 days, had a price reduction. I liked one. Look at the pictures. Are they vacant? So this is probably somebody that really needs to sell. So I would mail them a postcard that just said, hey, I saw your property's been listed for, a while and it hasn't sold yet. If you need to get it sold, call us. We can buy within 48 hours. Okay. And that gets people that really need to sell on the phone. And so we bought a bunch of stuff that way. As far as how I deal with realtors, I try not to. Okay. And I'm not trying to offend any agents that are on here. But just in general, I find most realtors aren't open to creative stuff. They're very inside the box thinkers. And Jody was a broker. I mean, you have some insight into this. Why? I mean, they just aren't trained.
That's true. There's a bunch of reasons actually. One of the other reasons is you generally they want to be compensated, and that comes out of your money or the seller's money.
Right.
So that's just another piece of the pie that gets cut out of there. So if we can avoid that, all the better. And then back to I was going to mention before, that's why I was kind of not listening, because I was remembering how, when the listing is expired, the seller gets hammered with new agents and stuff. So when you try to call them after it's expired, they're already like irritated. So that's why getting it before it expires is another good reason.
Right. Yeah. So, but I have had people, sellers agents over the years call me and say, hey, why are you bothering my, my client, whatever. If you want to make an offer, you can make it through me. And, and you have to deal with those individually, and how I deal with them really depends on how snarky they are when they contact me, but
they almost always are.
They almost always are.
They're very, again, not all of them, but a lot of them are very know-it-all, and they just, they don't get it. They get in the way. They can really blow the deal.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I learned early on. I mean, I developed my distaste for most agents very early in my investing. In first couple of years, I had someone contact me that was in foreclosure. They had their house listed. It had been listed for a couple of months and hadn't sold. And they contacted me. So I tried to do things the right way. I called up the agent and I said, listen, Sally called me about her house. She's going to auction next month and you have it listed. We need to get her released so I can buy her house, because there wasn't enough room really to pay an agent. And that agent refused to release that lady from that contract, which the lady could have sold to me anyway. Guess what happened? Okay. Next month, house goes to the auction because the agent wouldn't release her. And I thought, well, gee, you would think, I understand a contract's a contract, but what was this lady supposed to do?
You're supposed to be doing what's best for your customer, your client.
Right.
And that's not what's best, to go to foreclosure instead of selling it.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I don't have a problem. I don't have a contract with an agent. I'm not breaking any laws if I reach out to an MLS seller and say, hey, we're interested in buying your house. And if you're, and we get that sometimes in our outreach, texting or whatever, someone will say, hey, our property's listed now. You can call our realtor, and we'll just respond back and say, you know what? We generally don't deal with agents, but if your agent isn't able to deliver, call us and we'll try to work with you.
We kind of imply that if the agent's not involved, we can be involved.
Would I pay a realtor if a realtor brought me a deal they said, hey, we got this house listed, it hasn't sold, the seller's in a bind, can you help? Yeah, and I would be glad to pay that agent a fee. It may not be 6%. If there's room, we might, but most of them just aren't open to that. They'll tell you in a minute what we do is illegal. But some lawyers will tell you that too. So I don't know.
This is referring back to.
I remember that Vincent said he was moving to Texas. So
I know.
Sure. Contract for deed illegal. It is not illegal, Vincent, but they make
it's frowned upon
penalty for doing it so harsh, you really don't want to. If the buyer comes back later and complains, they can unwind the deal and make you give them back every penny that they paid you and charge you all kind of punitive damages. You just don't do it. It's not worth it.
It's not that you can't. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, the penalty's too harsh. What do you think of taking a property subject to in your name temporarily while you figure out how to get an LLC? Listen, you can have an LLC in about 5 minutes in just about any state. So I would not take it in my name. If nothing else, I would take it in a trust name. And that's a whole other story on how to do that. You need to learn how to use trust, and you don't need an LLC. Yeah. So
that'll be another course we have in the Sub 2 University down the road.
Right.
It's coming up.
So learn how to use trust. They're important, I think. And but getting an LLC, get online in your state. I can just about guarantee you that you can have an LLC formed in about 5 minutes in just about any state in the country. So there's no excuse. You go ahead and write the contract up in the name of what you're going to name your LLC, and you're not going to close for probably at least a couple of weeks or a month, but you can definitely have that LLC done by the end of the day. So for sure. All right. Are you managing?
Some people don't create the LLC until the offer is accepted.
Right. And then some people shelve LLCs. Wholesalers, this is a technique. It's funny. Most wholesalers don't know about this, but you can pre-form, a dozen LLCs. And when you write a contract, write it in the name of an LLC, and don't flip the property, flip the LLC. In other words, if you want to assign that contract, sell the LLC to Joe for $5,000 or $10,000, and let them.
And that's useful for like seasoning things and stuff too.
Right.
In Colorado, I don't really know why they did this, but a couple of years ago they had a LLC sale, and I bought like a dozen LLCs for $1.
Oh wow.
They're normally just $50. It's not that expensive there, but it was $1 a piece. I'm like, what the heck? So I bought like a dozen of them.
Right. Right. And these are seasoned. So, they got some age on them. And that's important when you're trying to build
Yeah.
business credit, which we had Jackie Hug on here a couple of weeks ago talking about business credit. So, yep. So you want to go back and watch that. All right. Let's see. Kelly, what market is one of the ones we should go after? Pre-foreclosures, vacant. If I were you right now in this market, the foreclosures are climbing. I would be, if I were working locally, I would be driving for dollars every day. I would take a map of the city and just color code and drive these areas of the city until you have everything covered, and market to pre-foreclosures.
And vacant.
For sure. And vacant.
And vacant pre-foreclosures are even better.
Oh yeah, they're like the super tippy top ones that you want to be doing.
The only negative is that sometimes they've moved on so far they don't even care if they go to foreclosure. So then that's kind of a dead end. But
and some of them will feel like they're putting the screws to the bank by letting the bank have the house back. Remember that house in Colorado? It was in Denver, I think, that the people moved out and they had just destroyed every inch of that house. Remember?
Oh yeah,
and they had listed it on Zillow.
The graffiti and everything. Oh my gosh,
it was insane. And I've seen houses in the past that where you wouldn't believe sellers can get so creative when they're letting a house go back or tenants that are moving out. I remember this one house that they had poured Quickcrete down every drain and toilet and everything in the house, right? A bag of Quickcrete had gone down every one of them. It was amazing. Or put a hose inside a house with hardwood floors and just turn the water on and just let the water run. And then those hardwood floors, they're like a washboard then, you know what I mean? They swell.
They can be like criminally prosecuted or something for that, can't they?
But nobody does it really.
I know.
It's just insane some of the stuff they do. So
I guess that's in response to Phil's join the group.
You should.
It's
pretty awesome.
Really fun, Matt. You should really join us.
Yep. Hey, there's Dina. Good morning, Sub 2 friends. Popped in to see what y'all are talking about. Yeah, we're going to have you on here sometime, Dina. You need to come in and talk to us. Dina is an amazing investor in Kentucky. She goes after all kind of things, probates and just everything. Dina, funny story about Dina too. We were texting Kentucky one time and Zillow sellers and sent her a text about buying her house. And she said, remember that? She said, William, get out of my state.
My territory.
That's right. Vincent said, can you explain your pros and cons of lease options? Okay.
Now be impartial here.
I am. I'm just basing that on doing that. Listen, I went through a lot of the beginning stuff that new investors do. When I got started, I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to create cash flow so I could replace my job. And it didn't take me long to figure out that the banks would not finance me for enough deals to create the lifestyle that I wanted. So I started looking at other things. How can I buy houses with no money? Things like that. So I bought a sandwich lease option course and I did a few of those. And man, anytime you're in the middle of a situation, you're lease optioning a house from the seller, you're lease optioning it to a buyer. And I had every situation that could happen to me. Buyers that go around you to sellers to make a better deal, people that tear the house up and then you got to fix somebody else's house, houses that wouldn't sell. I mean, really, I only did a few and it was a miserable experience. All of them were. But I bought into the idea that I can sell a house on a lease option and not take care of any maintenance. My tenant's going to take care of all of it. Most of them are going to buy it. I can charge higher than market rent for it. It's a premium because you're giving them the option to buy. All those things they talk about. And sure, sometimes those things work out, but most of the time they don't. Most of the time, your buyer isn't going to fix things. One of two things is going to happen. They're either going to not fix it, and then you're going to take the house back in a year or two with something we call deferred maintenance, which is always a lot of fun. And the second thing is that whenever they quit paying you or decide to move, they're going to take you to court if they did fix things, because they're going to say, Your Honor, I didn't own this house, but my landlord required me to fix it, and I spent $500 on a water heater and $200 on a furnace repair, and I deserve that money back. And depending on the judge you get in front of, he'll either say, you have that house. Why are you making your tenant pay? You owe them all this money. Or they're going to look at the contracts and go, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Tenant, you agreed to it. You got to pay it. And you're rolling the dice with which judge you're going to get. The bottom line is landlord is responsible for maintenance, period. And all you are is a glorified landlord in a lease option deal when you're selling that way. And 80% of them aren't going to buy. That's just a fact. They're just not.
Because they still look at themselves as renters too.
Right. So,
unless they have a giant down payment, but.
Well, it's how it looks. If they decide to move out and their friends say, well, I thought you were buying that house, they'll say, well, no, we had an option and we decided not to exercise our option. So, that doesn't sound bad. So,
and a lot of them will just walk away from a down payment too.
Right.
I mean, they might try to get it back, but they'll walk away. I'm surprised how many will walk away. And I just want to let you know that we got a lot of questions left.
Okay. Well, certain states limit how much you can get as option consideration. Well, if I sell on a land contract, if somebody wants to give me 50% down, they can, and they're welcome to do so. But on a lease option, like Florida, for example, 5%, that's all you can collect unless you want to give them an equitable interest. So Stevie said 40 years. That's combined. I've been doing this 23. Jody's been doing it about 17. But I'm older
than 50. But he thinks we're 52. That's good.
Yeah, I'm older than 52 anyway, Stevie. But thanks
just
for
a
the
little
compliment. Yeah, so we got combined experience here. I'm gonna let you run through the questions then. Okay. We were thinking of using the HELOC to pay off our original mortgage. Good thing I asked because I didn't know rates go up like prime.
Yeah.
Time 2008.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Then don't do it.
You don't use that money for your business. It's transactional. Use it, pay it back. Use it, pay it back. Don't risk your house with that. Don't do it.
Exactly.
Yep. Are credit cards and welfare two sides of the same coin? Even animals know you need to hunt before you eat. You know what? I'll tell you, at one credit card, and I don't really understand what the question means. I don't either. I think credit cards are great if you're disciplined and know how to use them. I used to lend money before I had much money, credit cards, right? I had really good credits and I got pre-approved offers all the time. And at one time I had about $400,000 in available credit on credit cards. Some credit cards had a $50,000, $60,000 limit, and I would lend that money to rehabbers. I'd write a convenience check for $50,000, lend it out at 5 points and 10%, and short term make really good money on that. So I think
that's a gamble, though. I mean, you got to keep on top of that.
Yep, I think credit cards are great. Risky. If you're you got to be very disciplined and very organized. I'm just saying. Right. Yep.
Okay.
For sure. Okay.
So just quick, what do you recommend for?
Being that I'm in Texas, what exit strategies do you recommend? Well, if you're going to sell with seller financing, you're going to sell on a wrap. That's for sure. Lease options get the side eye in Texas too. You don't want to do that. So if you're going to sell, you're either going to be a landlord, you're going to hold rentals, or you're going to sell on a wrap. Otherwise, buy in other states.
Quick answers now.
Do it somewhere else. Dina said, I don't deal with realtors. They screw up everything they touch. Think everything they're not familiar with is sketchy, when really they're just uneducated. I agree with you,
100,000%.
100,000%. I try not to say, and I try not to talk too much about realtors. I have a reputation for hating them. I really don't. But I just don't like being told that what I do is illegal, and it's not. When does a foreclosure affect the credit? Well, if
The
it's
minute
on,
they miss a payment.
yeah, if you sign the mortgage and the bank forecloses on you, you're affected. And if you're applying for FHA financing anytime in the future, one of their questions on their application is, have you ever had a foreclosure? That's
Yeah.
forever. So,
And I
yeah,
don't think it precludes you from getting another one, but it's factored in.
right. For sure. This is the message I got from a seller. I just talked to my lawyer. He said, if I sell the house before foreclosure, my credit will affect because of the foreclosure. It'll drop 100 points. I'll tell you this, and this is what we've told many sellers over the years, and it's absolute truth. If I buy from Joe, who's in foreclosure right now because he hasn't made his payments in 3 or 4 months, and I buy that house subject to and take over the payments on that existing loan and start making his payments on time every month, I'm going to improve his credit. And I don't know who this lawyer is, or the way I'm understanding you, the lawyer told them if they sell the house before the foreclosure, it's going to make their credit score drop 100 points. I'm telling you, that foreclosure is going to tank their credit much worse than a 30, 60, 90-day late.
And on-time payments is going to increase it back up again sooner than just selling it.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Than just having it gone.
Because every month you make that payment, it is an on-time payment on your seller's credit report. So it's beneficial to them.
Right. So if they just sold it outright, they would be okay. I mean, you know what I mean? It's better than just selling it outright for them in a way, because they have some positives going back on.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's how I was told.
Right.
Okay, we got it.
I use Bill Bronchick to do my, I would
great.
definitely recommend Bill for sure. All states need to do that with the LLC bargain prices.
I know, especially the ones that cost like $800 to sign up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Who would pay for a dozen LLCs in Nevada? Our yearly fees $350 each.
Well, if they're only $1 to purchase them and $10 to keep them renewed, that's not bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all the states are different. You know, you got some states, you got a fee to set it up, and then you don't even have an annual fee.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, good to see you. How many sub-2 deals can one purchase per month?
1,000.
The most, yeah. How many you want to do?
1 million.
The most I've ever done, Tom, was 8 in 1 month. That was a lot of work, but I've always been, you know, a solopreneur. So,
but there's no legal limit or anything.
Yeah.
I don't remember what that was regarding.
I don't know. There's a lot of crazy stuff.
There's a lot of crazy things we talk about.
Do you see the sub-2 working to buy a hotel? Is there a loan on that hotel? Yes. If there's financing on it.
You can sub-2 a car. You can sub-2 anything that's got payments on it.
That's right.
Let's see.
Also working with a local agent had me set up with auto-generated lists from MLS, but those are also bringing a bunch of homes that were eventually sold after they first expired. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can get agents to set you up with things that meet your criteria that have been on the market X amount of time. We did an experiment in Colorado. We posted in Facebook Marketplace looking for an agent. We want to buy about 15 houses a year. Must be open to creative, blah, blah, blah. We had about 40 reach out to us, and we did like a 5-minute phone call with each one of them. That narrowed it down to about 12 maybe when we told them more about what we did. And when we met with those for coffee, and out of those 12, there were actually 2 that were on board, and 1 that really worked out real well.
Right.
If I need to file an affidavit memorandum nationwide, what would be the best way to handle this without the option to be there physically? I'm assuming that you mean anywhere in the country, not one that covers the whole country. That's the way I took it at first. But if you're in Texas and you need a memorandum filed in South Dakota, you can do that a couple of ways. You can call the courthouse and ask them if they accept any kind of e-filing or anything, or you can have the document delivered to a mobile notary or someone to take to the courthouse and file that thing for you. A bunch of ways to do that, and none of them are very expensive. So that's easy to take care of. Foreclosure, federal database, you can't touch. Okay, so yeah, it's not like what Jeff's saying. It's not like it just goes on your credit report that you can get someone to, a credit person to knock that off for you for 30 days or something. Yeah, nobody's getting into the federal database. So yeah, it's there for a long time. Mm-hmm. Do you recommend using the HELOC credit to buy homes that are 50 and turn those into Section 8 for passive income? Crypto, if you don't have a way to turn that house off of that line of credit, in other words, let's say you've got good credit, which you probably do if you have a $300,000 HELOC, have a bank that's ready to refinance you. In other words, you purchase the house, renovate it, do whatever, then you've got somebody that's going to take you out of that in some long-term financing. That's the only way I would do it. I wouldn't buy that. I wouldn't fill my HELOC up with things like that.
With long-term things.
Yeah, where the cash flow is going to go down every time that interest rate goes up. We don't know what's going to happen. I think Elon Musk said the other day that the interest rates were going to start coming down, but I don't have the crystal ball he uses. Okay. To predict the future, I don't know. Maybe he knows something we don't know. I just know that in the 80s, interest rates went to 20% before they stopped, and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
I feel like I'd only use HELOCs for something that you were going to use short term, and it was going to be recouped somehow.
Right. Yeah.
Like you do a little repair, a little rehab or something, and then you're going to get it back when you sell in a few months.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't put anything long term on it.
No, I would keep that open.
Yeah. Let's see. I think I missed this one, and I don't know. I don't understand the wording, so I had skipped it.
Job blows credit is already messed up, being that he got 30-day lates. Yeah, once you're 30 days late on your mortgage, you're taking a hit on that. You got 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days late. Jeff, if Jackie's in here anywhere, she's a credit expert, Jeff too, and he can, tell us more about that. All of those things matter, but not so much as a foreclosure. A foreclosure, gosh, I think a foreclosure is worse than a bankruptcy as far as the hit that your credit report's going to take. And I'm not a credit expert, but it's way up there. So if you can come in, take over his payments, and make them on time for the next couple of years, you're really going to help the situation. Hey, thanks, Matt. We are pretty smart.
People shouldn't say that to me. I'm like, I know, I'm a genius.
That's right. When you've been doing something a long time, and that's why sometimes you forget when you teach people the basic stuff that you've just done day in and day out for so long. But I'm going to tell you, Matt, 23 years ago, I ordered a Carlton Sheets course, and I sat down on my couch, and I took the cellophane off, and I opened it up, and I started reading it. And a few pages in, I closed the book, and I said, man, I am never going to get all of this stuff. It's just too complicated. Okay?
Yeah.
So it takes a little while. I would agree foreclosure is worse than a bankruptcy. Right, for sure. All right. We got other questions?
One last one here, I think. We got to wrap it up.
Regarding the affidavit and memorandum, how can I do a mobile notary if I'm not physically in the state? Well, if you're okay, I'm assuming that you're in Texas and this house and this seller and everything are in, say, South Dakota. All you have to do is hook up this notary to go get this affidavit memorandum done for you. Okay. They can meet with the seller, get everything signed, notarized, and go record that document for you. All right. You don't have to be there. Man, I haven't bought a house in 12 years where I was there. Okay. It's you hire somebody to go take care of that for you. If they can do that, they can go to the courthouse. There's several ways you can pull that one off.
Okay, last one.
How much concern should you have for the bank's due on sale clause? Listen, you have to do
like a smidge
what you're comfortable with. Okay. But I've been doing this for 23 years. And I've never, ever, big banks, small banks, doesn't matter. I've never heard a bank breathe due on sale clause to me. Can they do it?
You have a podcast on this one, right?
Yeah, we've got a due on sale podcast. We sure do.
I'm gonna find it and link it in the YouTube.
I've got zero concern for that. I have no worries about it at all. Could it happen tomorrow? There's just too many options if it did happen. You can always talk to the bank. You can let them, listen, we'll let you have the house back. Do you really want it back? If you've got equity, you could sell it. If you don't have, okay, point that out to the bank. Listen, this house is worth $300. The loan on it's $300. Do you really want it? Because I'm sitting here willing to make the payments on it. They're on time. They're current. You really going to foreclose on a house with current payments? It's just not likely to happen at all. So I wouldn't worry about it. Okay.
I'm going to find the podcast on it and post it in here.
Okay. You going to do that now or?
I'll after we hang up.
Okay. All right. So guys, that's going to, I guess, just about wrap it up for us. Hey, Crypto. Well, listen, I appreciate you joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, if you will. And I'm going to, there it is, which you're on it now. Hit that subscribe button. Guys, if you're interested in creative finance, we started a group anyone can afford. It is the most affordable coaching on the planet. Don't you agree, Jody?
Mm-hmm.
$7 a month. You can find out all you want to find out about creative finance. I'll answer all your questions personally every single week. Okay. Promise that. So check it out. And Matt had asked about it earlier. We do have a new website where we've got a ton of digital courses, Sub2 University. We're developing courses right now for all those things. People say, okay, I get subject to this and that. I'm afraid of the paperwork. What can I do? This will explainer videos, every piece of paper, how to fill it out line by line. So go check that stuff out. And I think that'll help.
We got 2 or 3 more in the works.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you to my producer, Jody, for joining us today and helping out with the questions.
Well, I'm in the background anyway. I might as well come in here and be like Vanna White.
That's right. Oh, yeah. You put Vanna to shame, though. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Hope y'all are having a fantastic day.
Yep.
And so go talk to some sellers and buy some houses.
That's right.
Yep. See y'all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.